what is it, 2008, and try to be optimistic about going to Rodney Parade this weekend. Stay tuned. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As ever, I'm joined by Jock, Grant, and Josh. How you guys doing?
Who's John?
I'm good, thanks.
Yes.
How's it going?
Jock.
How you boys doing?
Good mate. Yeah, I've finally fallen off the wagon. Went to a Taylor Swift appreciation evening on Friday evening, and got really drunk with all the other people there.
Or the 50s.
Yeah, it was good. It was a good laugh. To be fair,
Before we get onto rugby, why?
honestly, got invited. I thought that's something new. Went and realised what I'd done, and thought, well, there's only one way I can deal with this, isn't there?
Yeah.
Get on the pints, get absolutely steaming. So
Good recovery, Jack.
there we go.
Well done. Good recovery.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully you'll be able to shake it off, Jack.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you've done there.
Yeah. Sorry, we won't have any bad blood.
You're making me want to cut this.
Look, I am just branching out. I'm broadening my horizons.
No,
It's all right, Jack. I knew you were bad blood. I knew you were trouble when you walked in, Jack.
All right, so if we're looking for any replacements for Josh on this podcast, please let us know.
Yeah, there's the door. See you later, guys. Have a good pod.
Let's get into some of the news then. Fairly slow news week in Welsh rugby for the first time ever, with only the pre-organised announcement of the Welsh squad being released. We'll go into a bit more depth of that later, but the big news is that 9 Ospreys are in, which is only a good thing for the boys. A couple notable omissions, at least one due to injury. Keelan Giles was obviously injured before the Glasgow game in the morning. I'm not sure what it is or how severe it is, but clearly Steve Tandy mentioned that he was ruled out rather than not picked, which indicates he's probably out for a few weeks, definitely out for this weekend. Do you boys think that'll be a loss going away to Rodney Parade?
Keelan's a loss, and Keith is definitely a loss, and we lost a little bit of shape in defence without Keith there, and people shuffled around. Luckily, we've only got the one game before we got a bit of a break, haven't we?
Yeah, I think Keelan's going to be a massive loss this weekend. Yeah, it's one of those where we've kind of complimented Mark Jones and rotating well, but in the back line we maybe haven't rotated as much. And yeah, I think his ability to sort of work off the wing and offer himself. Luke Morgan's cracking play, and he finished off a great try at the weekend, but he doesn't quite offer what Keelan does coming off his wing. So yeah, I think he's going to be a big loss.
Yeah. I believe this Welsh international as well, isn't it, Keelan?
Yeah. Bless. It always feels as soon as a Welsh squad is about to get announced, Keelan goes down with something. Every single time. And it's at least he's got his cap now. I think the only other piece of real news is that apparently Kieran Hardy has got the norovirus, according to his partner on Instagram, which is rough.
Just going to hope that it goes through him fairly quickly, so to speak.
That's an unfortunate choice of words.
Leaky Davis on the bench is great, isn't he? But I really like Kieran Hardy starting and Ruben coming on when the game starts opening up as well. So yeah, fingers crossed things clear up quickly.
Let's just hope he's okay. Yeah. Shall we look back at some rugby then, although it wasn't particularly pretty watching? Glasgow, we obviously lost 42-17 on the weekend. Glasgow were, to be fair, very fucking good. it's a bit of a worry going in that we just sort of got rolled over in the forwards, at least. Do you think, Jack?
Yeah, look, they're just a class outfit. I think Glasgow. We touched on it briefly with Keith not being there. I thought that there was a little, those reshuffles didn't help, and also Deavesy not being in. I think, I don't think Morgan Moore's had a bad game at all. I think he was decent at 7, but it just didn't add that kind of like scrappy quality that you get with Deavesy, and I think kind of missed that a bit. But in general, looking at the game, like Glasgow were pretty much on top in most aspects. It is disappointing to not even come out with a bonus point. I think that getting a losing bonus point would have been good, and I think that at times the Ospreys showed what they can do, particularly in that first half. I thought that some of the play was very good, and they scored a few tries, and the tries they did score they took well. But I don't think Derry Lake's yellow card wasn't really helpful, and then from there it became quite difficult, and also to lose the players that we did lose before starting also is not ideal, so all in all, the Ospreys showed what they are good at, and showed like that kind of backs play at times, but again I just felt like it was like inaccuracies there as well, and so on, that we were punished for a little bit more by a top side. So that was my take.
Yeah, you could see, it was reasonably close, wasn't it, going into the last quarter, and they pulled away, but they left some of these substitutions up until about 13, 14 minutes from the end, whereas we'd emptied the bench reasonably early, as usual. I made a couple of extras to bring on late, and the quality of the benches sort of made the difference in terms of the scores beginning to separate, didn't they? We were reasonably well in the game for a period, and then they start unpicking us, and they did it really, really well. They were really efficient, weren't they, in terms of converting. We defended really well for a long time. In our 22, we put in a hell of a lot of tackles, and eventually later in the game the gap started opening up, and we did leave in one soft try, didn't we, when scrum half made a break and went straight through. That shouldn't have happened, but apart from that, they just picked away at us gently.
Yeah, I think, as you alluded to, I think Keith was a massive loss pre-game, just because our game plan almost completely changes when he drops out, and to lose him that late in the week, they obviously prepped with him at 12 for the whole week, and then you're kind of having to rejig your back line. And what Keith does offer is he's always in a get out of jail free for Dan Edwards. Whenever Dan Edwards gets scrappy ball, offload it to Keith, and he's going to make you yards. And I looked at some of the stats, and Dan Edwards was our joint top carrier with 11 carries. There's no game plan in the world that your 10 is going to be a top carrier, especially someone the size of Dan. So I think we really did miss him in midfield. And I think Thogmasing is probably a bit more of a ball player than Keith is. But when you haven't prepped that during the week, and it's a wet, cold night in Bridgend, it's probably wasn't the option we'd ideally have gone for. But those things happen pre-match, and I think the other thing is, I think a lot of the regions have found this. It's when your budgets are as what they are, as soon as you start scratching away at some of the first choice players, and you're having to bring players in, when you play sides like Glasgow, who are going to be probably top 4, it is going to be a challenge. It's going to be tough. And I think the balance of the back row didn't really work. And that's one of the dangers, I think, of having 2 out and out 7s in your squad, in Deavesy and Jack Morgan. And it looks like Jack Morgan's going to play every minute for Wales because he's the only 7 in the squad. So you're relying a lot on Deaves and Morgan to play a lot of minutes. And I don't necessarily... Morgan Morse is a cracking player, and I can't wait to see what he can do for Wales. But he's not a 7 for me. He did, there were some good stand-up performances. I think Rhys Davis made 21 tackles. That's awesome. And again, really earned his place in the Wales squad. Moriarty made 20-odd tackles. We'll come onto the Wales squad and what we think of that. And Morgan Morse again did get through a lot of work, 15. I just don't think he's a 7. He also missed 6 and slipped off 6 tackles, so that's probably a work on. And I think as X factor as he is, he does have elements of his game probably that he will admit that he probably needs to develop. But we've been unlucky. We've played the top sides in the league in the first few weeks and some of our hardest games. And I think this is probably the first game where I've looked at the actual performance rather than the result and been disappointed in that as well. Whereas the other game was kind of, well, we didn't pick up any points, but we've kind of played well. And just looking ahead to Dragons, I think this is now almost going back to what Jack said before. Zebra is kind of must win. Again, it feels like.
So it felt like almost it happened with, I think, all the teams in Wales over the weekend, especially so far this season, is that we're competitive for the first 50 minutes and then there's a drop off in 50 minutes when our bench comes on. We don't have the depth that we necessarily need to have to compete at the top level. While our first 15 is maybe on par with Glasgow's in terms of quality, especially when we're injury free. We have Jack Morgan back in, everyone who we want to playing. A couple of injuries means that then a little bit of step down, and then when the bench comes on, it feels like a major step down again. And that's only down to sort of budgets and how much we can afford to play players at the window.
Yeah, I agree with that. You'd say if you got like Owen Watkin back in the equation, if Keith was there, we can probably stretch to a first choice 23 being okay. Okay, any injuries out of that and any selection rotation, and the bench starts looking a little bit fragile, especially when two of the guys drop out hours 10 minutes before kickoff and a couple of hours before kickoff. But you go back to something we talked about last week, was our 2 big ball carriers are Deves and Keith. And we talked about, we missed Deves as an out-and-out 7. We missed Keith in terms of gain line meters. We still got over the gain line a little bit, but it's just not the same without those two in terms of pushing teams back and then starting to dominate possession and making possession easy and making lots of clean ball. Because when Glasgow went forward, they were quick and the ruck speed looked really, really quick all of the time. We couldn't slow them down. Again, your 7's not going to slow down every single ruck every time, is he? But you miss someone like Deves or a Jack to when they get the opportunity to get in there and interfere. That we sort of missed that. We missed the canniness of a 7. Really.
I was going to say, when you look at our best phases so far this season, one we've been going forward at least, it's always been Deves been basically clearing out every single ruck on his own and just creating so much quick ball. I think back to the Morgan Morse try against Zebra, and Deves hits 2 rucks in there where there's 2 people about to go for the ball, and he takes them both out basically on his own. And the ball's rapid in the course of it. I don't think Morgan Morse has quite got that into his game yet, as he's far more of an edge forward. He likes to be in the space, but then you have no one really filling that Deves role, just smashing out the rucks and making sure with that clean ball, which maybe a little bit of the back row balance is off, but it's hard to say where that comes from without Harry Deves or Jack Morgan.
The overall performance was reasonable, wasn't it? It just wasn't up where we've had this for the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Those little bits against the top team, isn't it?
I've seen us play a lot worse.
Yeah. I think as well, it's important to say that like Glasgow kind of played the conditions quite well, kicked well, and played in the right areas of the pitch, so to speak. If you look at the territory stats and the kick-in stats, and yeah, it's difficult then, isn't it? When you're not really getting as much go forward ball, you're getting like kind of pinned back in your own half, and you're missing like that out and out 7 who's going to be able to slow those rucks down and potentially win a few turnovers and relieve pressure. And so yeah, I think when you've got a team that like Glasgow, that is going to be top 4, that are going to play in the right areas, and they had a few Lions out there and so on, to be missing kind of what we were missing in terms of Giles, Hardy, and so on. These are people who can like relieve pressure as well, Devesy as well, which is that kind of like, if you think about how, well Kieran Hardy kicks, and that's his big thing. And all of a sudden you've missed that. And you know, Ruben's a good player. I think he played really, really well, but his kicking's not at the same standard. And particularly when you get involved in this kicking battle, it becomes quite hard. And I thought like it became quite hard to kind of just relieve that pressure and get like out of our own half, so to speak. I don't know if anyone else thought the same thing, but
I do
I
think
thought Ruben's kicking was fairly good. In terms of distance, he kicked competitively quite a lot. Some of the kicks coming from deeper weren't quite as accurate, and we were made to pay for that, for definite. But I thought Ruben's kicking was good for Ruben. You know, every now and again he kicks a little bit short, okay, and there's none of that. I thought his length was okay, but like I said, outside of that, yeah, we were a bit scruffy in terms of making it easy for Glasgow to come back at us. And it gave Adam Hastings a good few opportunities. I thought he was real quality on the weekend.
Yeah.
What do you think of his performance, Josh?
I think I could have probably done better, but I thought for him, he was all right, to be fair. No, he was quite good on the night. I think, yeah, just going back to the 9 thing, I think similar to what we said about Hardy when he played for Wales in the summer, I think the problem with not having Hardy and Ruben is whoever plays is probably going to have to go 70 if the other one's not there. And I think Ruben was kind of, until the game was gone, he was on the pitch. And I think he didn't, I could be wrong, but I think he played 70 minutes plus. And for any scrum half playing that amount of time, I think you're always going to tire a little bit. And I think those conditions were probably perfectly suited for someone like Hardy. But I mean, you know, you can't really have excuses because they were missing George Horn, who's a brilliant line, to be fair. And their second choice, Dobie, came in and played really well. So you're going to have injuries and you're going to pick up illnesses and things throughout the season. You're just going to have to get on with it.
I don't know. You saying off air that he's overrated and you should have been picked over him. I don't know where that's coming from.
He's just lucky I didn't stick around. Otherwise, I'd currently be playing for Scotland.
Yeah. It's a shame about that knee injury that prevented you from going pro, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, honestly. If it wasn't for that knee. Watch out, Callum Sheedy. I'm coming.
I'm not putting any more statements out apologising for anything because some people, it goes right over their heads.
I'm just looking forward to my 3 points tomorrow, Grant. So,
Not at all. That's 3 or 3.
I do feel bad for the Nines. The conditions did not look excellent, especially watching it on S4C, on Premier Sport, and you just see the wind constantly blowing it back, especially in the second half. Like any kick to touch we had, just couldn't make it past halfway. Just sort of an invisible barrier of West Walian wind is just unhelpful.
Yeah, you can see there was wind on the ground, but it wasn't as clear, especially because we were fairly high back in the terrace, keeping away from any dodgy weather. And yeah, you watch it back on TV and you're watching the kicks going forward and just curving away sideways into touch. Yeah, it was tricky.
I believe your weather report of "it will be dry" drum was such a fib.
Yeah.
If the BBC would like to issue an apology for the predictions up until the afternoon before kickoff, let them carry on.
How was the atmosphere, Grant?
It was really good. You could hear a lot of people singing on TV, watching it back. I don't know whether they've just got the odd mic, sort of pitch side mic in a couple of places. It seemed a lot noisier than even it did on TV, which is still 1,000,000% better than it was back in the Swansea.com stadium. It felt like there was a lot more people there than the previous week against Zebra, even though the official figures only showed a few hundred difference. It felt a lot fuller. And having said that, I can categorically say that not everybody was officially scanned into the ground. If you go back to the Exeter friendly, there were quite a few issues getting people in terms of like scanning tickets, and that was still troubling them slightly. There was still some unnecessary queues trying to get into the back end of the ground, and there were points where, as long as you could show your ticket, people just go, oh, look, the queue's getting too big. Hey, just show me your ticket, right? You can go in. And quite a few probably went in with tickets, but without being scanned and didn't count the official numbers. So there's probably a few hundred more than we announced.
To be fair,
Honestly.
I imagine there's also less people in the Bounty Castle compared to last week.
Yeah, it wasn't there this week, was it? It was Oktoberfest, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So it's like a rough percentage. How full would you say the ground looked?
You can get percentage-wise. Cowshed was empty. Well, a handful of people in the cowshed at the far end. The ends of the main terrace were empty. Apart from that, and you could have squeezed more in front of the main stand. So yeah, there's probably room for another 1,000. Well, I would think at a push. Well, you spread them out like that, yeah, there's room for another 1,000 there.
Nice.
That's pushing towards the 6,000 probably then.
Nice.
But it was between the 22s. You had one spot to stand, and that was it. Yeah, you wandered off to get a beer or something, and it was a hell of a challenge to get back to where you started, which is good to see. It's really good.
Yeah.
Promising. Shall we move on to something a bit more exciting, maybe something a bit more positive? Steve Tandy released his Wales squad yesterday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and a total of 9 Ospreys have been selected. I'd like to give an initial congratulations to Rhys Davis, Dan Edwards, James Fender, Kieran Hardy, Billy Lake, Jack Morgan as captain, Rupert Morgan-Williams, Morgan Mawson, Gar Tom, as well as our 2 Ospreys out on loan at the moment, being Nicky Smith and Adam Beard, all getting recalled up for the autumn internationals. Obviously, Ospreys having 2 uncapped players called up, being James Fender and Morgan Morse. Are we excited to see them in a Welsh shirt come 2 weeks' time?
100% yes.
Yeah.
For me. Yeah. It's fantastic to see James Fender being called up, because you look at the potential he showed a year or so back, and he looked like the future in the second row for Wales, let alone the Ospreys. So it's good to see him get him back into the squad. Morgan Morse looks like his time has now come, doesn't it? He's been at the front of what we've been doing for the last season now, well, half a season at least. So it's great to see those 2 guys have an opportunity. And even though we've had people like Keith miss out, Ross Moriarty miss out, and a couple of others, Deavesy, it's almost like, thank God they're about for the extra game.
Yeah. No, 100%. I think, yeah, it's obviously brilliant for us. And I think for Fender, there's a real good chance he's going to get capped, because I think it's only him, Rhys Davis, and Ben Carter. There's the 3 Welsh based second rows in the squad. So in that final game against Africa, there's a real good chance he's going to get a cap, which is amazing for him and really well deserved. He kind of picked up a couple of injuries last year, didn't he? After he looked, as you say, like the future at second row. So for him to work his way back in there, it's amazing. I'm gutted because I just want to see Keith in a Welsh shirt. I just think if he gets the opportunity, like a lot of the other 12s have had plenty of, I just don't think they'll look back. He hits everything that moves. He always gets over the gain line. But, obviously thankful for the players we did get in the squad. And as you say, for that final, is it Edinburgh we've got at the end of the November internationals?
Edinburgh away, is it?
Yeah. So yeah, having those boys, having Moriarty and Keith available will make a huge difference for that fixture. So from an Osprey standpoint, obviously it's great that we've got 9 boys in the squad, and it's also great that we've got enough boys left behind that we should still have a strong squad for that game.
Yeah, who's going to be our second scrum half for that game?
Oh yeah, Harry Williams will have to, wouldn't it? Yeah.
We do have 4 scrum halves. We signed one most of the summer for this sort of reason.
I forgot about it. Yeah.
I would like a quick aside on James Fender. If you've been on the rugby union subreddit, you'll notice his mum is constantly commenting under the post, and it's currently sitting at as many upvotes, likes, as whatever, as the squad announcement itself of his mum, which is quite cute.
Oh.
And well done to them all. Excellent.
Her little boy?
Little isn't what a word I'd use.
Hang on, did you just describe him as little, or did I? I don't know.
You did.
I'm staying
Not
out of
a
that. All I'm saying is he is a line-out option.
Isn't his brother meant to be quite a decent player as well?
I think his brother's the same size. Yeah, I've seen him play for the under-18s. Yeah, he's a lump.
Oh, there we go.
I've walked into Nando's by the Swansea.com, and I thought, why is James Fender welcoming me when I walk in? I go, that's his little brother. Pretty much identical.
Oh,
Great
so-
I think the big one, the big inclusion, at least from the Ospreys perspective, that everyone's talking about is obviously Morgan Morse. He's been knocking on the door for the best part of 2 years now since he scored that screamer at the Brewery Field. It's about time, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd love to see him start at 8. You know, you almost got the feeling he's going to come on off the bench and cover the entire back row. But as we saw on the weekend, he just reinforces he's a quality 8, and putting him somewhere else is just wasting what he can do for me.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think at 8 is where he plays his best rugby. He gets to cut those lines. He gets a bit more kind of like ability to build up a head of steam and so on. I don't think he works at 6 or 7. But yeah, it's that back row for Wales is very interesting. Like in terms of like who gets in and then who gets on the bench. So obviously, I think I would say that Faletau is probably still starting.
I'd imagine Faletau will start at least against Argentina and the All Blacks. If
Yeah.
not, maybe get rested for Japan.
And then the question is, and there's Wainwright on the bench, right? Because Wainwright covers
6'8".
6 and 8, but he's got more experience, isn't he? So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
I do still think our best back row is Wainwright, Morgan, Faletau, 6, 7, 8. Because what at the end of the day, Wainwright at 6 has been when Wales have been at their best over the last sort of decade.
So then Morse gets in on the bench for sure because he covers all positions. Yeah.
Either that, or I'd imagine an Alex Mann maybe on the bench.
Also, no, the other thing that got me was Rhys Carey being included after saying we couldn't have him last week.
Yeah. But it was clarified by the PRB, wasn't it? So whether that's around the discussion about whether he was made an offer to stay at the club or whether it was around do exceptional circumstances count in terms of bringing someone who breaks the rules in, given the loose heads we've got, it doesn't seem like it's exceptional circumstances, does it?
No.
Maybe, I don't know. I think the thing about the being offered a contract is you can be offered a contract, but if it's not up to that of a 20 cap international, which is what it was at the time, if it's not on par or deemed worthy enough for that player, you can still be then selected afterwards, which I imagine was the case if Cardiff didn't look rich.
What is a reasonable offer as well? Because if Saracens have come in and said we're going to offer you 400,000, and then Cardiff have come in and said we'll offer you 100, you could turn around and go, well, is 100 a reasonable offer at that point? I don't know. Do you know what I mean?
What's the going rate for a loose head prop in Wales?
Yeah, you know what I mean, right? So like that the wording of like reasonable, because that seems to be what people are suggesting, isn't it? Which is that's how he's got in, but then reasonable offer is who knows? So
I think it's a ridiculous rule, isn't it, really? Because as you say, reasonable offer for a Welsh region is going to be not far off what a Pro D2 club is going to offer you. So surely a reasonable offer is the highest market rate offer, which is probably going to be what Saracens would have offered him. But I'm really happy with the loose heads, to be fair. I think Nicky Smith's probably been the best loose head in the Prem. Rhys Carey, to be fair to him, has been awesome since he's gone back to Saracens, and they've done really well. And obviously we've got Gareth Thomas in there. So you're looking at those 3 loose heads and you're going, I'd happily have any of those start or any of those 3 coming off the bench. So from a Welsh perspective, suddenly that position looks really strong. But you look at tight head and you've got Bath's 4th choice, you've got Dragon's 3rd choice, and the underpowered, but technically amazing I'm here, Azarati. So I'm massively worried about tight head, to be honest. And I think I just can't get too positive about any of the games because I'm like, well, our scrum's going to go backwards. So how are we going to compete? How is Dan Edwards going to be able to run a game at 10 when he's not got a platform to work off?
To be fair, the one person I want at the back of the scrum when it's going backwards is Taluba Fanatau.
Yeah. And to be fair, he was awesome at the weekend for Cardiff. It was a terrible game, but I thought him and Wainwright were two standouts. So, yeah.
Makes sense.
But yeah, Reece Henry, please get fit because we need you to run off a few games for Ospreys so you can be available for Wales because at the moment the tight head stocks are looking very bare.
If Reece Henry can get a decent amount of game time before Six Nations, I might be slightly optimistic about not getting another wooden swing. Slightly.
Yeah, I'm also I get the whole Chris Coleman selection, but I know I'm one-eyed anyway. But for me, Ben Warren has a higher ceiling than Chris Coleman. He's also higher in the ranks at a better scrummaging side. He's shown a lot more than Chris Coleman has for me this season. I know it was against Zebra, but you can only play against what you come up against. So
he was good against Glasgow last week.
Yeah, exactly. I just can't necessarily see that. I think he's got a higher ceiling than Azarate as well. So again, I'm gutted for him. Again, come back to 7. Deavesy was so unlucky. The fact they've only picked 1-7 is surprising. And I think as Zach was sort of alluding to, it just means you're going to get your best player on the park the whole time. But yeah, I was gutted for Deaves.
Deaves was name checked by Steve Tandy in his press conference as one of those that should still be looking in. I imagine that if someone goes down in the back row, Deaves will be the first name in afterwards, based on how we've been talking about him. Especially if you lose an Alex Mann or Tame Plumtree, Deaves comes in and covers 6, 7, 8 at a push. Probably not. Don't really need to cover 8 per line, but comes in and will certainly be up for it, especially for that South Africa game. If and when it comes, we're going to be losing a load of players. I'm slightly concerned that for that South Africa game, our props are going to be Garton and Danny Southworth. Those are some props.
I went to the South Africa game last year, which was the last game again, I think, and it was a completely pointless exercise. Like I know that sounds really, really harsh, but like the South Africans were on their last game on tour and it felt a bit like a training match. And obviously Wales lost all their key players and were playing an understrength team against the world champions. I don't understand why the WRU put this. Well, I do know why. They want to make money off the fixture, but I still struggle to understand why you think that playing the 2-time world champions, who could field 3 teams that could beat most teams in the world, and put in that fixture at the end of a cycle of games when half your squad, and the most experienced players are going to go back to their teams. Why you think that's a good idea? It's not fair in some ways on these players,
You've got to play against the best of them to test yourselves, but I think your point about putting it right at the end is a really good one. In terms of if you're on big impact of the first game, you want New Zealand or South Africa to know.
Yeah,
everyone you don't have, you'd have second.
Yeah, I'm not saying they shouldn't play them. I think they should play them, but I don't think it's a game to be putting on people who might be winning their first, second, third caps. Like surely it would make more sense to put a Japan at the end of that, and not the 2-time world champions who are renowned for their physical prowess and so on. Like it just seems a bit. Obviously, the players will want to test us, and maybe I'm wrong, and maybe they'll go and win, right? So I don't want to be too defeatist about it, but it's more like the planning from the WRU's perspective is what I don't understand.
I think, it's also a reflection of where Wales are, because I think in the past we probably got one of the in-test windows against the big 3, whereas now we're behind in England, behind Ireland, behind Scotland, behind France. So they're going to be the priority games for South Africa. And suddenly, if Wales wants game against Africa, that's fine, but it's going to have to fit outside the test window because they're no longer. It comes across like they're no longer a priority for South Africa to play against.
Yeah.
But as you say, I then don't organise a game against Africa. If it's going to be outside the test window, organise a nicer game against Japan or Georgia.
Yeah.
Or, a reasonably competitive, winnable game. We could still lose to either of those sides, but as you say, it just feels doesn't feel like a fair exercise to be chucking in players like James Fender for his first cap against the world champions in an underpowered Welsh side.
No.
To be fair, I think it's we've played South Africa 4 times in 3 years, all of which are outside of test windows and all good times. And it's just, I'm a little bit sick of getting beaten by 50 points, just a little bit.
Yeah, I think Josh just picked out the most important thing. You look at it from South Africa's point of view. Why would they want to play Wales in the 3 matches of the proper international window? We're the outliers, and we're not in a position of power to say we want to go in that order. We bottom of the list in terms of choosing who we play.
Yeah.
Deciding where we are.
Yeah.
That's really sad. That is.
Yeah,
This was supposed to be
all come to cycles. In 4
was-
years' time, it might be different.
This was supposed to be the positive section, guys.
You got to remember, okay, this is the first game where Steve Tandy is getting an outing with what looks like his choice entirely in terms of coaching setup. He's kept who he's kept. Okay, he's brought some new kids on the block in, or not so new with Duncan. Okay, but so fingers crossed. Okay, there's a major step up in terms of performance. Change is always good in terms of coaching. You normally get some sort of bump at the start, which is a positive. But fingers crossed for Steve, it happens in the first 4 games. The first 24 games.
Yeah, and to be honest, what you're hearing about Steve at the moment, I think it's all really positive. He's going to all the regional games, which you should say should be the minimum standard, but it's not the standard we've had over the years. And he seems to have communicated really clearly with the players who haven't been selected and have just missed out. So players like Harry Deves, and made it very clear as to why they haven't been selected, to let them know they're not out of sight and mind. They were very much considered and just missed out. So I know we haven't played a game yet, but he's very much saying and doing all the right things, which is it's a massive positive considering where we have been.
It feels weird to have someone who knows how to communicate as a head coach after 2 decades without it. Best part.
Yeah.
Let's move on then from a Wales chat and move on to something maybe a bit more local.
Okay.
Some results from the community.
Hey, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Starting off in Super Rugby Cymru, Pontypool 43, Bridgend 10, big win for Pontypool, they're doing well. RGC 31, Swansea 38, so Swansea up to 3rd in the Super Rugby Cymru. And complete Super Rugby Cymru, Cardiff winning 45-26 at home to Aberafon. Admiral Premiership, Bargoed 41, Neath 31. Neath hang on to 4th with that result somehow. Admiral Championship East, Abertillery 18, Bridgend Athletic 39. Admiral Championship West, Aberystwyth 17, Bonamine 27. Glasgow 17, Dundon 24. Good local derby there. Tartar Steel 47, 17 winners over Crymych. Gleneath 26, Ammerford 14. Right, that next result there is a great one from the WRU website. Gowton 21, Kenfigill 1. Yeah, that needs validating. And finally, Newcastle Emlyn 27, Trebarnos 20. That'll teach me to rely on the WRU, wouldn't they, for information. Moving on. National League 1 West. Swansea Uplands 44-22 winners at home to St Clair's. And Wenarlwyth 26-12 winners at home to Larne. Moving on, National League West's 1 West Central. Hale Cave 17, Bilthwells 15. Ystalyfr 25, Abercrave 35. Another local derby there. Aberafon Green Stars 43-10 winners at home to Skewen. Ystradgynlais 40, Nantafachon 42. That's a great result for Nantafachon, and Ystradgynlais must be gutted scoring 40 points at home and losing. And finally, my stake Harlequin 36, Vardra 43. National League 2 West, Aberaeron 47, Penclough 26, Whitland 10, Lucca 36. Fishguard and Goodwood 22, Pontedilais 24. Good away win for Pontedilais, who were 5 wins, 1 draw, no losses, so at top of the league. National League 2 West Central, Mumbles 24, Pencoed 25, Aberafon Quins 25, Brynhaman 11. Puthcall 26, Bryncethin 14, Neath Athletic 20, Southgower 3, Morrison 27, Birchgrove 10. National League 3 West Central, Blackland 24, Carmarthen 37, Resolven 33, Brinkhawk 20, Ricos 24, Tonmouth 33, and Tonna 36, Maesteg Celtic 7. National League 4 West Central, Kevin Kruger 24, Bonamine Athletic 25, Gleis 12, Maesteg 26, Regen Sports 17, Cwmgors 36. We saw Cwmgors guys in the clubhouse for a brief period on that Saturday night, of course. Britain Ferry 13, Penlan 31. And finally in League 4, East Central, Brackler 34, Treharris 29. One interesting point, in League 3 West Central, there's 8 points covering first and last place in the league. So that, if you want to go and see a competitive game, and you don't want to, you're probably not going to guess the result, go see a League 3 West Central game. Moving on, final set of results, I think, from the community. League 5 West Central, Pontryfen 18, Taibach 17. Another local derby, won by a point by Pontryfen. Cwmgrach 62-7 winners over Pyle. Banwen 68-17 winners over Glencorrwg, and Cwmtwrch 52-7 winners over Dunfern Athletics. Some big wins in League 5 West Central. League 5 East Central, 100 Wells 14, Kevin Coyd 36. League 6 East Central, Regent Athletics seconds, the Generals 13, Whitchurch 3, and Kenfig Hill Athletics 34, Llanrumney 19. There concludes the results.
Plenty of very high-scoring games. I am still very interested in how a 1 has managed to end up in the score tally on the WRU's website.
Yeah.
Have any of you heard of the term scorigami?
No.
It's the act of making unique scores with classically done with American football. Obviously, it's quite a fun, interesting topic. You go on YouTube, there's plenty of hours long of videos about it. It's quite interesting. But I think that might be the first one I've seen in rugby in maybe about 50 years.
Yeah, we'll have to go back to work out when's the last time you could actually get a single point and not just from a conversion in rugby union. There we are. Little job for anyone watching the pod. Yeah, please reply and tell us the last time you could score a single point, okay, without it just being a conversion.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. Let's move on to that a bit something maybe I don't know how to feel about this. We're away to Rodney Parade this weekend. I think it's for 5:30 kickoff.
Yeah.
5:30 kickoff at Rodney Parade. Are we going to get it done? Are we going to overcome the curse, or do you think the Dragons are going to fight back after having maybe one of the worst spectacles of all time against Cardiff?
It's Rodney Parade again, isn't it? And I think the last 5 results have all gone to the home team. Before that, Ospreys had a fairly good run, but yeah, it's a bogey team, isn't it? It's a bogey place to go. Lots of players say they don't like going to Rodney Parade. There's a reason for that in terms of the atmosphere there. It can be fairly intimidating, and the Dragons seem to raise their game against us, and we seem to fall apart. Surely not again. Surely not again.
Yeah.
Do you think Do we think that after the abysmal performance on the weekend of them, they're gonna come back out the gates flying and fighting?
I would
Well, that's
expect
the
so.
thing.
Oh, you go ahead. Sorry.
They always turn into prime All Blacks when they play us. So yeah, I'm fully expecting Joe Westwood to come back in, turn into prime Conrad Smith. Nyron Owen turns into Mar Nonu, and yeah, Angus O'Brien turns into Mulyaina. So it's just inevitable. We're gonna. Yeah.
But they scrum and line out is solid this year. They've got they've imported a good tight end who's doing a job for them. They line out is fairly similar to ours in terms of stats. They've had plenty of practice in terms of tackling for the last 4 games. Love them. You look at the way the URC rank people's attack and defence, and Dragons appear 4th in terms of defence, and I think that's just entirely based on number of tackles made. I'm sure.
Oh, jeez.
It's actually quite important that we win, I think. I don't think they can afford to come out of this block of games and not have another win on the board.
It's a home game, don't you? And
you've
got to pick up the points somewhere else. You can't afford to lose home games. So if we lost one, we need to win one away.
Yeah, and given ignoring, the terrible record that we have at Rodney Parade, most teams go to Rodney Parade and win. And so that's probably need to be picking up points there if we seriously want to be challenging for at least playoffs. And that's not, and I think the Dragons have actually played some good rugby and they've looked better this season. And I don't think they were that bad against Cardiff even. I mean, the game was played pretty much in midfield for a lot of it, but I don't think they're terrible. And I think they're kind of an easy target on times as well because of their winning record and so on for people to just be like, oh, they're rubbish. But I will say that barring them turning into, Prime All Blacks and Conrad Smith turning up, should have enough to beat them.
On paper,
yeah.
Not playing the game on paper, we're playing the game in Rodney Parade, which is, like I said, a unique atmosphere.
It is, but yeah, I mean, particularly they've lost their centre, haven't they? Who was giving them a lot of go forward. And I think that's a massive loss for them. I mean, Tears to Be as a decent fly half. They're all right across the board, really, but I would like to think that there's a kind of an acknowledgement that this is a game that they need to win, and that will help raise those standards and kind of as you said, come out the blocks, screaming and put some points on the board. So yeah, I don't know. It's a strange game, isn't it? Because everything would say generally you'd expect an Ospreys to win, but you've got the Rodney Parade factor.
Yeah.
But I would like to think that they've got enough to win up there and kind of need to pick up the points, I think, as well in this block of games, for sure.
Yeah, I think for both teams, you say I think it's must win, but obviously I only really care about the Ospreys perspective, and for us it's must win as well. We were their only win in the league last year, so everyone else when they played the Dragons picked up 4 or 5 points. We didn't, and if we're going to slip into those playoffs, this becomes a must-win game. And we can say about the previous losses we've had that we've probably played the top 4 teams or the top 6 teams. This is a team that everyone else is going to pick up 4 or 5 points against, so we've got to pick up 4 or 5 points. I think from what I heard on the Dragons there, Rob Hunt looks like he's going to be out, and I think that's pretty crucial for them. Because as you say, Grant, since he's come in, he's really shored up their scrum, and he has looked like a really, really good signing. So it means I'll probably end up having to go with Dylan Lewis and Welsh tight head Chris Coleman, who are Dylan Lewis is good around the park, but isn't necessarily a great scrummaging tight head. So that probably means we could potentially play a Garen Smith who's a bit more mobile around the field. But yeah, Dragons always feels like that team where, I don't know if you've seen the film Moneyball, but they kind of always try and do the Moneyball signings, but the trade-off is always way worse than the actual pro that they add. So it's like, oh yeah, we signed this massive South Sea Islander back rower, but he's never fit. He'll never play a game for you. Or, oh yeah, we've got this new Welsh qualified tight head, but he can't hold up a scrum.
To be
So-
fair, that massive South Sea Islander did play 5 minutes on the weekend, came on in the 65th minute, smashed someone, it got a yellow card, went off.
With a heavily strapped knee. It's just,
It's very
but for some reason against us, they really up their game. And I think I was kind of expecting that reaction last week because they rotated against Glasgow away for this Cardiff game, because Cardiff are like, you know, our version of
bogey
them. Where it's the bogey team, and they still didn't turn up against Cardiff. So I'm like, well, surely they probably will now against us. Yeah, I think obviously Wainwright's their big talisman player who we're going to have to chop down early. Bedell, the ex-under-20s captain, I thought he's looked really good when he's got game time. And I think it really highlights to me that we need to play an out-and-out 7 to compete against him on the floor. Because otherwise he will win turnover after turnover and if our boys get isolated. So I don't know if Deevy's going to be fit, but if he's not, Jack Morgan has to play for me. And I was thinking originally potentially bring him off the bench, but for me, we have to have a 7. So if Deevy's fit, play him at 7, brilliant. If Deevy's not fit, Jack Morgan has to come in for me. He's about to play 4 games for Wales, so we need to get our minutes out of him as well. Yeah, luckily for us, in terms of go forward, if we're missing Keith, they don't have too much go forward either. And Eyrie Owen's a smaller centre, and Ackerman is a 12 playing at 13. So I think they were lacking go forward as well against Cardiff from what I saw. And yeah, I think they're really missing Paella, who looked really good in that game he played, but then in Dragonsy fashion, injured. So
injured by his own player, mind.
yeah, just to get more Dragonsy, the more you hear.
To be fair, that player was also Angus and O'Brien. It's maybe the most Dragonsy thing I've ever heard.
Oh yeah. And in that same game, I think he kicked 3 kicks out on the full on the kickoff. It's just, it's unforgivable. Sometimes I watch them, but sometimes I'm like, I feel bad sometimes for Dragons fans. Like, it's tough being a Welsh rugby fan at the moment, but being a Dragons fan, it's so tough. In any other game, I always support the Dragons. I love the Dragons, but yeah, not this week. Not this week.
No.
It'll be they do a similar kickoff routine to us as well, where they like kicking off centrally, similar to what we do with Cassandre, and get their winger chasing up to compete. Usually,
Rio Dyer.
Yeah, Rio Dyer, that's it. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how we combat that and whether we defend with Cassandre in that space where Dyer goes up to compete. But yeah, I have noticed that they do a similar sort of kickoff to what we do. But yeah, this is a must-win game for us. If we lose this, suddenly this block is looking bleak, and you're going into the Edinburgh game away. That's going to be tough, and then you're going into the Christmas derbies with potentially with just one winner under your belt.
Can't happen, can it?
No,
it might happen, but we can't afford it. This is 13th versus 15th as well, isn't it? We've seen some of the bottom teams in this league playing each other, and the games have been terrible.
I don't expect this to be more than a 1-score game, of which maybe a maximum of 20 points each. I just have a feeling it's going to be grim.
It's not about individuals when they play us, is it? We talked about Wainwright, okay, top 4 in terms of defenders beaten in the league, right? Crazy stat. Roddy Williams and Tinas De Beer can kick the leather off the ball and try and control the game. Okay, we can't let that happen. We need to dominate possession. Really need to dominate possession to get out of this game and stop Wainwright going forward and stop those two giving them the field position that they crave, which is anywhere apart from the 22.
Let's hope we can get on top of them. And shall we have a quick gander of who we think the team we're going to send out there is going to be? I think Lou said, I think Garen Phillips probably the one to go. Do we think Tom starts or do we give him a week off?
It's an important game to win. I'd go with Gareth Thomas starting. I'd go full-blown team for this.
Yeah, I'd say fully loaded.
What's that?
Do you reckon Dowie goes again? Even though he's pretty much played every minute, and he's going to start every game for Wales as well.
I'd give him a little bit of a rest and give him 20 minutes off the bench.
Tested Slice was superb on the weekend going forward.
He was, to be fair.
He was
Yeah,
brilliant.
he was. So potentially, yeah, he comes in to start, maybe bring Lake off the bench for the last 20 when
Bit
we
of
tend
impact,
to
bit
let
of
Jack.
grit. Yeah. It's almost like I sort of want to give a slightly lesser starting team to have more impact off the bench, just so when it comes down to the nitty-gritty, we're in control going through.
Oh, the balance as per the Zebra sort of bench versus starting lineup.
Yeah. Just have a little bit more oomph, I think, with Jack and in theory Brian Smith returning or available, it would help. Tight head, do you think Tom Beaufort comes back in? Had a week off against Glasgow. I think coming back in now makes sense.
Yeah.
Ben Warren was good though.
Yeah,
Ben Warren was, I think, I don't know, if loads of scrum pens in a scrappy game, I'm not going to say no to scrum pens for 60 minutes, then Ben Warren coming in and getting another scrum pen for another 20 afterwards. I don't think you get that immediate announcement with Ben Warren starting. I think it's a bit more 50-50 almost.
Well, you want to convince the ref early doors that scrum is dominant by having both are on the pitch.
Yeah.
Giving them the picture for the rest of the game.
Especially against Mick Jones, who's a decent scrummager, to be fair to him.
Yeah.
Locks. Do you think Ryan Smith comes straight in, or are we staying with a mixture of Fender, Ratty, Davies?
I'd be tempted to start with Ratty and Sutton or Ryan Smith. Again, because they've played really well and have the two big boys on the bench. So we start in better than most teams can put out in terms of second rows, and we've got the two heavyweights to come on.
Yeah, I'd be happy with that.
We're not complaining about that at all. In that case, back row, I think it's fairly simple. Moriarty, Morgan, Morse.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think Jack Morgan, you can say he's going to have a run of games for Wales, but he hasn't played for us yet, has he? So if he needs an out, then let's get him on the pitch and give him as long as he needs. With Deavesy on the bench behind him.
Deavesy off the bench is always a sight to behold.
I think it'll be a big game for Morse as well because he'd be wanting to prove himself at 8.
Yeah.
He want to score some points early, so he's got that extra kind of motivation. Because he's coming directly up against the person he will be potentially competing for spots for in that back row for Wales.
Yeah,
certainly. In that case, 9, Rupert, 10, Dan picks themselves. No complaints, I'm assuming.
I'd go Hardy if he's fit, depending on how well he's recovered from his illness. With Ruben coming off the bench, I just like it that way round. But yeah, if Hardy's, as you say, if Hardy's a bit weak, like not necessarily got over his illness yet, I'd potentially just bring Hardy on. But yeah, if Hardy's fit, he starts for me.
Yeah, he's been scoring tries, hasn't he? I haven't said that. Ruben's doing the same, isn't he? So,
yeah,
it's
a good position to be in, and I'm glad they're both in the Welsh squad.
Yeah,
I do think centres may be a concern. I don't think Tom, Florence, and Phil worked particularly well last week. Do you think maybe Boshoff comes back in at 13 with
you've got to be outside centres, haven't we?
Yeah.
Unless you want to play Cocknessinger as a 12 and use his hands, but he's quite nice, a bit wider out with a little bit of space when he can see what's going on and step people as well. So yeah, too many 13s. Spoil the broth. We need Keith fit.
Yeah, big time. But yeah, if Boshoff's fit, I would bring him in if Keith isn't fit. Because yeah, I really rate Boshoff, and I think defensively, especially at 13, I think I see a massive difference when he plays. And not to say Florence did anything wrong. I thought he was more than solid at the weekend, and he seemed to want to take on defenders and beat defenders. But this is a must-win game, and I bring the experience of Boshoff in.
I guess that leaves the wings being, I think, Gasende has to start. Does Lukey Moggs keep his place? Or Justin Hopkins come in? Maybe.
If Yeston's on the bench, he can cover the full back three, can he?
Yeah.
Is Combia still with us? And if so, is he fit?
I think he's still with us. I don't think he's fit.
I think he's injured, sadly, because I think missing him.
This would be a great game for him, I think. He was
Yeah.
good when he played last season. Very good.
Yeah.
So for Lukey Moggs at 11 then.
Yeah. Very similar team to Glasgow, but it's what has to be done.
Yeah.
Don't have the depth to really delve too much in, unfortunately. Let's hope it's enough. All right, boys. Last thing of the pod. You know what it is. The score prediction, something funny. In that order. Jack, do you want to start us off?
Ospreys by 14 points. I'm confident. It can't go on forever. Something funny. See, now we're away from the brewery field. I can't have any animal-based antics. Not brewery field. Yeah, brewery field. Sorry. Yeah. Something funny. Oh, I don't know. There's nothing funny about going to Rodney Parade, is there? That's the problem.
Yeah, don't say anything funny about the crowd, Kate, because I'll pay for it because I'll be there.
Yeah. So this week I'm going to duck out with something funny and just say an Ospreys win, bonus point, happy days. That'll be fun enough for me.
Go on.
Ospreys by 20. We can't keep on having that bogey team effort, can we? I'm really with Jack in terms of something funny. Oh God, yeah. I don't know. I don't want to say anything funny. I'll leave it there.
I'm going to go with Ospreys by 8. And something funny. When I was Rodney Parade, my main memory is being in the standing terraces just behind the posts. And it was, I think it was a Cardiff Dragons derby. And it was, I think one of the kickers, it must have been Angus O'Brien, someone knocked over a conversion. And one of the Cardiff fans ran to try and catch it, slipped. And this was back when they had a mud pitch or something, but he slipped and stacked it in the mud, and he was covered from head to toe. So my funny thing to happen is that exact situation is going to happen, but to Grant, as he's at the game.
Thanks.
Beer goes everywhere. Big cheer, big cheer.
Out of curiosity, have any of us ever predicted an Ospreys loss?
Yes, right now. Dragons by 2.
Oh no.
It might swallow the curse.
Hoping for the Paul Williams curse.
Yeah, something like that.
I think at some point it would be good to get an idea of if our predictions were to come right every week, where Ospreys would actually finish in the league. I think we would be top.
Pretty sure I said they'd go beat Glasgow last week, wouldn't I? So
I think most of us did.
Yeah.
To be fair,
I would put a rugby acro on every weekend, and I don't think any of my teams won. Not one team on my whole accumulator won. It's like I didn't put a spread bet on because I would have lost a lot of money on it. But yeah, if you want to ever take betting advice, don't take it from me. I don't have a clue what I'm talking about, clearly.
Yeah. Maybe Adam Hastings might have an idea. I was gonna say I'd like to add my funny thing. I think Ross Morality gets red carded playing against the Dragons.
For doing what?
Just punching someone. Just
he'll be another one with a point to prove actually on the weekend.
Yeah,
That's true.
He's been playing so well, and now he's been left out. He probably, yeah. So I wouldn't mind betting he is an absolute stormer.
yeah. I think he has like an amazing 60 minutes, and then gets really annoyed by by someone at Rodney Parade and punches a physio.
Oh, there's an Eric Cantona.
Yeah,
Oh no, please no. We need him available for some point in the season. That's just career over.
Let's just hope he doesn't get anyone in a chokehold again. You know.
I think with that, it's best we call it for this week.
Well, I have got some late updated news in terms of fixing results. According to every source apart from the WRU, it was Gowerton 21, Kenfig Hill 10, not 1.
Oh, that's disappointing. That is disappointing. That's ruined my day. I think with that, it's best we call it for this week. If you have enjoyed this pod, feel free to drop a like on whatever platform you're listening to us on. It would mean the world to us. And if you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe to the Rap channel and check out the Global Gain Line, where the new URC Rewind is doing bits, despite if it's just Q making fun of us a lot.
This time will come.
Yeah, he's a Scarlet fan. He's in enough pain as it is. And with that, I think I'd like to thank everyone for listening. Have a good night.
Cheers. Bye.
Like...